In my experience, far too many young men are passive in their single years and then find themselves woefully unprepared when that girl comes into their life. There's this lie and mentality that, I'll get my life together when I meet her. But what I've found is that if you can put in the intentional work now, the rewards later are immense. But this isn't what most men do. But this is what intentional, godly men do. So in today's video, I'm going to share with you 5 practical steps that you can take in looking to prepare for marriage in your single years. Buckle up, because personally, number 4 was my greatest challenge. Before we get into it, a quick thing here. If you want to join our community, it's called the Kindred Brothers Club on Patreon. It's a great community where we hang out once a week on video call. We have chat rooms where we discuss all sorts of things. It's a great place to be, to grow in this brotherhood. And so if that interests you and you want to support this ministry as well, join me in the link in my description. Before I get into the first practical step, I can recognize that there are a lot of you guys watching that are single and you have a desire to be married. But I don't want you to lose sight of what this video is really about. It's not about the fact that your single years should all be about this potential marriage in the future, and it should just all be about this woman. As much, obviously, as I think it's important to prepare for marriage, I do think that in the midst of all these things that we're doing, our primary motivation has to be to honor God, to glorify God, to love God with our life. A girl, a potential girl, a future girl always comes second. Just so we got that straight, now let's dive in. The first step is address how you self-soothe. Address how you self-soothe. This might be a foreign concept to you. If it is, that's not a big deal. Let me just break it down to you very, very simply. We all use things from the time we were a little kid that make us feel better when we're experiencing some kind of negative feeling. Maybe it's anxiety or fear or loneliness or boredom. Any of these experiences that we might be feeling, we do things to cope with that. Maybe as a little kid, you had a blankie, or you would, drink some juice, or you would, go into a particular corner of your house. These are things that you would do to self-soothe. Now, there's this misconception that we stop doing this as an adult. No, I don't have a blankie anymore. I don't need a cup of juice to calm me down. No, I don't do those things. I don't run behind the couch when I'm scared or fearful or angry or any of those things. But we still do self-soothe. That's the truth. But we do it in a different way. So these are the kind of things that we use. We use food. There's TV. Maybe it's binge watching TV shows. There's pornography, social media, sex, buying stuff, any one of these things. And you list what yours might be. Maybe it might be sports, right? It's how you deal with the negative feelings that you're experiencing, how you deal with these feelings that we all experience from time to time, but we play into these vices for a greater or lesser degree. Like, nobody would say that, a kid that has a blankie, that's a real vice. That kid has a problem, because societally it's pretty acceptable for a kid to have a blankie around with him. But even still, people and grandparents might be like, he's too reliant on that little blankie there. You need to develop some separation. Now, as an adult, maybe it's not a blankie. It's something that it can actually potentially be harmful for you. It distracts you. It becomes an idol in a sense, because it becomes the thing that you're turning to for peace, for comfort. Now, it may be that you say, no, Isaac, I love God, and God is everything to me, and He's the one I look to comfort for. But I want you to really look at how you live your life. Like, when you experience a negative emotion or an insecure feeling or boredom, where are you going? Are you going to God? Are you praying to Him for strength to lead you out of temptation that you might be going to, or for indulgence or reliance on other things? Or are you just giving into those things? Here's what I realized, is that the things that I used to cope are still the things that I want to use to cope, even in marriage. So for me, something was food. I loved to binge eat. That was something that was just, part of my life at that point, and especially as a single guy. I'd experience these negative, anxious emotions, and I would try to fast throughout the day for weight reasons. And then, by the end of the day, I was so hungry, and I would just binge, and I would eat everything. And then I'd wake up the next morning, I'd feel so sick to my stomach. Catch yourself doing this. Document each time you experience one of these powerful feelings and how you respond. Do you go to eat that brownie? Do you go to watch a TV show? Do you go to pornography? Do you go to buy something new on Amazon? Or do you choose in that moment to give it to God, to ask God for his presence, to ask God for his comfort and his love? The second thing is develop your relationship with God. Some of you might be tempted, even in this moment, to fast forward this part. I know I might be if I was in your position, because I'm like, well, Isaac, I have a relationship with God. This isn't something that I really struggle with. But before you do that, I want to touch on one thing. For a long time, I felt like my relationship with God, this check mark, was about me trying harder, doing more, modifying my behavior to be that good Christian guy so that girl will like me. Guys, trust me, those were disordered affections. First and foremost, my affection needs to be on Christ and getting to know him, not just because it leads me to another person, get to God so then I can get to the girl, but rather that I would get to know God because he is so good, not for what he could give me, not for what he could provide, but because he himself is amazing. Think about the best relationship that you have on this earth. That relationship is transformative in your life. It is, absolutely. So think about being in a relationship with someone that is perfectly loving, compassionate, who is the embodiment of truth. That is a transformative relationship. And if you guys are intentional about wanting to grow this kind of personal self-development, trying harder is not the move, but rather being in relationship with someone who transforms you. The third step that I want you to focus on as a single guy is cultivate real social skills. I know there's a good portion of you guys watching that would say that, you know what, social skills are just more difficult. And for whatever reason, it just doesn't come as naturally for you. And you see other people that it just seems so effortless and normal and they don't really have to think about it. And you're just kind of jealous. And hey, like, I understand that, I get it, but that doesn't mean that you can't put in the work to get there. Okay, cultivating real social skills isn't necessarily about it just being natural to you, but rather having the right insight into the things that make up interesting person to talk to and a good facilitator of a relationship. So some of the things I want to emphasize are learn how to approach somebody new. Okay. And so this is the task that I have for you at church this week. I want you to be looking around at people at the church that you think are new. Okay. Find the guy that's sitting by himself. This is the easiest way to do it. Find the guy, particularly the single guy that's sitting by himself, and approach him. Strike up a conversation. Begin with this. Hey, how's it going? Just, hey, how's it going? And then, he might look around for a second. He's like, oh, hey, how are you doing? Oh, I'm doing well, not too bad. Is this your first time here? Are you new? I haven't seen you before. I mean, even something that simple. I know some of you guys might be like, Isaac, that's like level 1. But trust me, some of us, we need level 1. We need to start here because it's scary. We're not ready to approach a crowd in a social situation, but we might be ready to approach just one new person at church. And then learn how to keep up a conversation. So much of conversations are about thinking about what the person is saying to you and trying to pick out pieces that you can be curious about. Like that's pretty much conversation, guys. If somebody mentions to you, oh yeah, last week I was, fixing up my car and it was really challenging, but I ended up getting through. And anyway, my week's been okay, but that was a real challenge. Instead of just, you starting to blab about your week, you could say, oh, how long have you had that car? Oh, have you always been are you a car guy or not so much? And those are the type of conversations that are really interesting to people and where they begin to feel known, because it's not just, they say something and you barely acknowledge what they say, but you're showing them that you're picking out those pieces of really what they're saying and digging a little bit deeper. We can get in this mindset of being charismatic or developing social skills is about being loud and funny and boisterous and being the life of the party. But you don't need to be any of those things. People are much more likely to be irritated and turned off by you if you become that person versus a person that can really listen and be curious about someone. Step number 4, and I hinted at that this is the most challenging one for me, is get over your self-pity. Some of you guys know my story. I was raised in a Christian homeschooled household. I did not go on dates or at all and throughout my teen years, most of my early adulthood. That just wasn't part of my life. And I interacted with some women, but not that many. And I just felt like a victim. I felt like a victim of my circumstance. I saw people that were getting in relationships at early ages, and they seemed to have like this life that I wanted and these relationships with these girls that I wanted. but I didn't have those skills and I wasn't put in that environment and I didn't go to public school, so I didn't have those opportunities. And there was just a victim mentality to it. And then there's a hyper focus on your shortcomings. I remember being like 22 years old, I think I was. I didn't have a car. I'd never had a car before. And for some reason, that felt so vulnerable to me. Like that felt so embarrassing that I never had a car. The truth was, I had enough money for a car, but I was saving up for bigger things. I didn't really need a car at that point, but I still felt super embarrassed. And there would be times that I would reference to other people, even on dates with people, that I didn't have a car because I was expecting them to reject me. I was expecting them to have some sort of visceral reaction to that. But the thing was, our shortcomings are so much bigger in our eyes than other people. But when we focus on them, when we verbalize them, when we talk about them, then all of a sudden, yeah, they're like, okay, I guess this is a big thing for you. Even though it's not a big thing for them, it's like talking about your height. And look, the truth is we all have shortcomings. We all have things about ourselves that we wish we could change, or circumstances or traits. And some of those things we can work on, and some of those things we just can't change. But are we going to sit in this place of self-pity, feeling sorry for ourselves? Or are we going to choose to snap out of it, to stop focusing so much on these things that, look, the average person that we interact with isn't focusing on because they're thinking about their own stuff too? And that leads me right into step 5 here. Develop real confidence. Develop real confidence. This can sound pretty lofty for guys that just don't feel like they've ever had a lot of confidence. They've always felt like their self-esteem was pretty low. And the idea of developing real confidence is like, how do you even go about that? Well, what I found is that there's a lot of guys that portray themselves as being really confident. And I think for us more timid, meek guys, we see those guys and we think, wow, how do we become like them? Like, I guess they're just born that way. The thing is, they are boastful and they're loud. They're boastful and loud. Those tend to be the characteristics. I don't know if you guys have played, many sports, but in sports, this tends to be the formula. This is confidence that is fueled on attention and self-deception. So attention, meaning that I need other people to pay attention to me, for me to think that I'm cool, that I'm awesome, so that I'm constantly drawing that attention on myself. And then there's self-deception. There's some part of them that they really do think they're unbelievably awesome and they're amazing and they're so talented and all that. Okay, I don't want either of those things for you. I don't want you to need to feed off people's attention, and I don't want you to be self-deceived. So how do you actually develop real confidence? You need to replace these things. It's not about being boastful and loud. It's about security and significance. Security and significance. This is what we're all looking for. Some people find this security and significance in other people. Developing real confidence is about finding our security and significance in God. Our security, knowing that He loves us, that He cares for us, that there's nothing that we can do that will separate us from His love in Christ Jesus, as it says in the Bible. And then our significance, knowing that we matter, like we mean something, that it's not about just like how much attention we can get. Oh, that's when I'll matter, this fame or popularity or whatever that is. But rather, in God's eyes, I matter. I'm created in His image. So finding that security and significance in Him is a process. I'm not going to say that you can develop this type of confidence overnight. When you have self-condemning, self-tearing down thoughts, how can you reframe it? It's not as the world does, and when they have a fake confidence, it's, no, I'm actually awesome. Oh, no, I'm actually cool. Or look how many people like me. I'll just get another dopamine hit of people's affection and then I'll be good. It's, no, Isaac, God loves me. God approves of me. I have significance in God's eyes, and His opinion is what matters the most. But then there's another piece to it. I believe that by taking risks, failing, succeeding, doing new things, having new experiences, those are fundamental pieces of building real confidence. But we don't take those steps, we don't take those risks unless there's an underlying security. And so for some of us guys, we might be a little bit more fearful, we might be a little bit more anxious, and we're less likely to take those steps into risk. The thing is, we need to be secure in God, in our confidence in Him, to humble us, to be willing to be humbled. I'm not a car guy, okay? There's nothing about me that's a car guy. My dad didn't grow up working on cars. So I've just been, and like I said, I didn't have a car till I was 22. And yet more recently in my marriage, I've been forced, by my own volition too, because I didn't want to take it to the shop and spend all the money to do some things for my car. It's been intimidating. It's been scary, honestly. And I've always didn't want to do stuff like that because I didn't want to be embarrassed. I didn't want to take a risk and then be seen to be lacking, to be inadequate, or to fail in some way. The piece that I learned was, Isaac, you need to be willing to allow yourself to be humbled, to make a mistake, to fail. And then at the end of the day, you need to disconnect your identity from your performance. If it's all about how much I perform, that's how, who I am, then yeah, it's pretty scary if I fail. But if I can disconnect my identity with my performance and connect my identity to who God says I am, into that security and significance that we were talking about, then taking a risk, taking a step out, trying something new, it's not as scary. I'm not going to tell you guys that's an overnight process. That is about taking little steps, but trusting that I can have that security and significance in God's love and who He sees me to be, regardless of how I fail or whether I succeed. Genuinely, I hope this was helpful for you. I'd love to hear from you guys in the comments down below which one of these you're looking to focus on in your single years right now. Thanks for your trust and time as always. And until next time, keep pursuing the mission.